class, so today we are going to be learning how to find unknown words in books that we're reading. Today we're going to be looking at using 4 different strategies to find unknown words in our chapter book that we've been reading, Merci Suarez Changes Gears by Meg Medina. So if you remember last week, we talked about a couple of strategies and we made this anchor chart to find out what we do when we have an unknown word that we don't know what it means. So the first thing we talked about is finding context clues. And whenever we look for context clues, we look for pictures, helping words, which we said were or, like, are, and called. We can also use words that we do know, and then we can try to find examples and definitions if they are in the book as well. And if we can't figure out the word with context clues, we can also look at word parts, so how a word is broken up. So if we have the word unhappy, we can break it up into un and happy, so we can tell that they're not happy. Or thankful, we can break the word up into thank and full. And then we can also look at word relationships, so 2 words that can mean the same thing. So if we need to, we can try to just replace the word with a word we do know. And then if none of this works, we can also use reference materials. We can look in the dictionary, or we can look online at a website or an online source. And then if we still can't find out, we can ask a peer or our teacher because they may know. So keeping all of that in mind, I want us to practice using these 4 strategies to find out words that we don't know. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and read the first page of chapter 10 in our book. All right. For most of last year, Rolly was in a scientific competition with Anna Patel, whose dad was a physicist at NASA. All right, now I'm going to stop right there. I'm not sure what a physicist is, so I'm just going to write that down and make note of it, all right? So we can come back and try to figure out what it means. They took turns edging each other out for a number 1 spot in the junior class. Every time he talked about her, Rolly rolled his eyes and seemed to split tacks. She challenged his answers during class discussions, he said. She used questionable reasoning, his words, in her research paper. She was annoyed and obsessed with being valedictorian one day. I'm not sure what valedictorian is either, so let's keep that in our mind. So imagine my surprise when junior prom rolled around and mommy told me Rolly's date was none other than Anna Patel. All right, so when I was reading this, we took note of 2 words, physicist and valedictorian. Now, I'm not sure what a physicist is, so I'm going to see if I can use context clues to figure out what a physicist is. So I'm going to read the sentence that it's in, which is, for most of the year last year, Rolly was in a scientific competition with Anna Patel, whose dad was a physicist at NASA. Now, I know what NASA is. NASA is our space station, right? So those are our people, like our astronauts and everything. And I know that if I'm thinking about space, I'm thinking about science, right? Okay, so if her dad works at NASA, which is a space place, I feel like he could be either an astronaut or a scientist. Now, I think if he was an astronaut, they would just call him that. But physicist kind of sounds like scientist. So I'm going to try to replace that word in the sentence. So I'm going to replace physicist with scientist and see if it makes sense. For most of last year, Rolly was in a scientific competition with Anna Patel, whose dad is a scientist at NASA. All right, so I think a physicist might be a scientist that deals with spaceships or something in space. So I'm just going to go ahead and write that down on the board next to physicist because that is what the definition is. So we're going to say that a physicist is a scientist that deals with space or some kind of something involving space. All right, and I had one more word on this page, which was valedictorian. Now I'm going to see if I can use context clues to figure this out. So let's see what the sentence says. She was annoying and obsessed with being valedictorian one day. Now, I don't think that really helps me out very much. You know, I'm looking and it says that she is Anna Patel, so I'm going to see that she's in a scientific competition with Rolly every year. It seems like they're always trying to get the #1 spot in the junior class. Challenging his answers in class discussions. So I feel like valedictorian is going to be something within school. And I feel like if her and Rolly are always competing to be #1 in junior class, maybe that's what she is annoying and obsessed with. Maybe valedictorian is #1 in class. Now, I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't know if it's going to make sense or not. So I'm actually going to use a reference material just to double check my answer. So if we wanted to do that, we can quickly just do a Google search of valedictorian. Just go into Google and search. And it says that a student having the highest academic achievements in class who delivers the valedictory at a graduation ceremony. So if they have the highest academic achievements in class, I feel like that might be the person who's #1 in their class. So I'm going to go back to our definition or our word. I'm going to write that valedictorian is the #1 person in the class. All right, and now that we found those two words that we didn't know, the page makes a lot more sense to us because we now know what a physicist is as well as valedictorian. All right, so now I want you guys to try to figure out how to do this. So what I want you to do, when I say go, we're going to partner up with a partner next to you. And I want you guys to finish reading chapter 10 in our chapter books. Everyone should have their chapter book out already. And we're going to finish reading chapter 10 with your partner. And I want you guys to look for words that you may not know or you're unsure of. And then I want you guys to just take and write down those words on a piece of paper. After you guys finish reading, I just want you to sit there quietly and wait for everyone to finish reading. And then we're going to come back and we're going to share some of the words that we don't know. And I'm going to write them on the board. All right? And then we're going to see if we can use context clues with your partners or word pars or word relationships or reference materials if you need it to see if we can figure out what those unknown words are and what they mean. All right? Now, remember, since we are working in partners, you need to stay on task and only one person needs to be talking at a time, right? So I want you guys to take turns reading the pages. So partner 1 is going to read the first page. Partner 2 is going to read the second page. And you guys just take turns until you finish the chapter, all right? Got it? All right, you may begin.